Hey guys, it's Rich with your Monday Spot in the Pagan Perspective. This week we're talking about pop culture pantheons. This week's topic comes from Kristen, who writes, "It might be fun to hear you guys talk about pop culture pantheons. What do you think of them? If you were to pick some god or goddess figures, who would they be?" Now, we've talked about pop culture movements and spiritual practices such as Jediism and Dudism in the past, and Dudism was incredibly fun for me to do that video. So I really enjoy thinking about some of these pop culture spiritual movements. But let's get into what a pop culture, what I mean by pop culture spiritual movements. There are many of them out there, and I just have a small list here of some of the ones that I've seen either through online or hearing in passing through blogs and whatnot. And one of them is Xena, the warrior princess, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, Doctor Who, for all of you Whovians out there, Harry Potter, and I haven't seen this one so much, but Charmed. I feel like that would be a pop culture type of spiritual movement as well. And some of these different spiritual movements, they seem very interesting to think about for me, but I kind of need the more traditional, quote-unquote, type of teachings because it resonates more for me. It's rooted more in tradition and has more of a solid foundation, whereas these ones, to me, are more fictional. They have a good way of getting a message across, but it's not something that I can really take too seriously because at the end of the day, it is still fiction to me. Not saying that for others, it's not something that is very deeply spiritually moving, but for me, it's just not something that resonates for me on as much of a spiritual level. But I do want to say, for people that don't resonate with the more traditional styles or types of teachings out there, that the pop culture type of religious systems or pop culture type of spiritual practice might resonate more for them because they can relate to them more. And I hope I'm making sense with this. I think it's a very empowering way to take your spiritual practice and run with it and kind of incorporate things more and more, either with fan fiction or whenever you have something like the Harry Potter one. And I'm actually listening to a podcast right now called Harry Potter as a Sacred Text, I believe is what the actual podcast name is. And it goes through there and it kind of dissects Harry Potter in different chapters and everything into what can we glean from this and how can we use it in our own life. And, you know, it kind of bats around those ideas about Harry Potter as, you know, looking at it as a spiritual or as a sacred text, whereas many of the more traditional type of teachings through paganism aren't really set in stone as a sacred text. So sometimes we need to glean more of our learning or our way of interacting in humanity from a fiction type of book. And I hope I'm making sense with that, and I think I kind of went around the bush or beat around the bush to my point there, and I think you guys are understanding what I'm putting down here. So in summation, for what I think of it, is not really totally for me, but I find it fun to think about. I find it very exciting to think about what we read in fiction or what we see on TV as something that is spiritual, that has a spiritual meaning for me. I find that very interesting, and I find it very empowering to see things in a different way that maybe the author or the show creators did not actually intend, but it kind of ended up happening that way. So I think it's pretty fun and an exciting way to kind of dissect your own belief system in that way. And I think I'm just rambling on about this. So if I were to pick my pantheon of pop culture, I have through my list here that I mentioned earlier, I have some here that I would definitely consider or would definitely not consider. With Xena, I'd have to rewatch the episodes because I haven't seen Xena Warrior Princess in like so freaking long. It's been probably a good, probably about 20 years since I've seen that. So I haven't seen Xena Warrior Princess in so long that I'd have to actually sit down and rewatch all of the seasons, all of the episodes to actually reacquaint myself with the lore that is within Xena Warrior Princess. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I make a point at least once a year to rewatch the entire series. And eventually I will be getting into the comic books and, kind of deciphering some of the meaning within the comic books and whatnot that I wish were actually made into a TV series or continuing the TV series. I really wish they would have done that, but we only have the comic books now, and I would definitely like to get into that and decipher the spiritual meanings behind that. Supernatural. The reason I would not pick Supernatural is because it kind of leaves an unsavory taste to things that I hold sacred. And by that, I mean, I consider angels as mostly good. They have good intentions. They're working for the betterment of society or of humankind. They have a good role in the world. And Supernatural, if you guys don't watch, sorry, this is spoiler alert, not all angels are good, and some of them are kind of, douchebags. But anyway, yeah, they kind of paint certain spiritual figures that would be on the top shelf or in reverence in my personal practice. It kind of paints them in an unsavory view. And even the witches within the series are considered evil for the most part. There's very few good witches in the Supernatural series. So for that, I probably would not use that as a selection for a pantheon. But still fun to think about and very entertaining to watch. Doctor Who? Sorry, guys out there, I have not watched Doctor Who. It is something that is on my playlist to eventually get to, but I'm sorry, I'm not a Whovian yet. I know that Kara is a Whovian, but not me. I've not watched it, and I probably should sit down and make a point to watch that. Harry Potter, absolutely love the books. Like I said before, I am working my way through a podcast called Harry Potter as a Sacred Text, I believe is the wording for it. And I'm just kind of salivating over all of the meanings and the layers that can be unraveled from the text in Harry Potter. Not only that, you also have Pottermore.com that you can go on there and get even more background information for the characters and how J.K. Rowling has kind of not only created this world of Harry Potter, but has also expanded upon it in the more recent years. So she's kind of taken this whole world, created it, and then continued to create it and fill it with more goodness that we can all kind of just devour. Charmed, that's a definite possibility. If there is a charmed spirituality out there, I would probably, if I were into pop culture spirituality, I would definitely kind of go into the charmed type of aspect. I think there is so much that we can learn from the TV series Charmed and kind of unravel from that. And if there's actually a podcast or something out there or a channel out there discussing in a round table type of setting, different spiritual aspects or different lessons that can be learned from Charmed, I would really be interested in that. And if there's not, that's an idea for you guys. It's a free idea for you guys to go ahead and run with. I would definitely listen to that because I think that would be fun as all get out. And that's the end of my list, and I think that's also the end of this video. I really enjoyed this topic. I cannot wait to see some of the other videos that come out of this and see what other people end up picking, because I cannot make up my mind as far as a god or a goddess or a certain type of pop culture pantheon that I would end up following, but I would find it very interesting to see what other people would end up following and what they think of this. So I am sorry that I did not pick a pantheon specifically, or a god or a goddess specifically, but the whole pop culture spirituality really just, it is exciting. It's just not something that is overly relevant in my practice, but it is fun to think about, and I do see a lot of joy and a lot of necessity in it for some people, and there is a lot that you can unravel from it and pertain to your own spirituality in some sort of way, shape, or form, certain questions that come up from it. So anyway, I think I'm rambling and just playing with my pen and whatnot. So with all that being said, I wish you guys love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.